Joining us now in the studio, our good friend, the Congressman representing Mississippi's 3rd District, Michael Guest. Morning, Congressman.
Good morning. Good to see you again.
Exactly.
For all your listeners, we had a chance to eat breakfast together and talk politics around the breakfast table, and now we're going to get to do it on the air.
Exactly. Always appreciate you joining us for breakfast.
Well, look, that's one of my favorite things. I love when I'm back home in Mississippi to go around and to sit down and have the opportunity to meet with different groups. And, of course, y'all have got such a great group that meets at Primo's there. And just to be able to talk about family, talk about politics, talk about sports, just talk about things in general, just so enlightening. A
lot of fun. Well, and I, as a constituent, appreciate you being visible and accessible to your constituents. And I have to brag a little bit on the Congressman. I think we had 2 members of our little group that talked about small but important issues to them that, and they called on you for help, and you and your staff did just that and resolved those issues. And so I just wanted to make sure our listeners understand that that's just the way the Congressman operates. He understands that he represents people in his district, and if he can be of service to them, he certainly does, and he doesn't hesitate to, I guess, use a little bit of his power there as a congressman, and sometimes, unfortunately, it takes that to just rattle some cages and get people to respond, and that's what this was. It was just a matter of things dragging on, and you help with that. But I just want to point that out and appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And let me give a shout-out to my staff. You know, I am blessed to have a great staff, both in Washington, D.C. And here in the district. And so when I'm here, my D.C. staff continues to work diligently taking care of things in Washington. And when I'm in Washington, the district staff is working upon needs in Mississippi. And I'll tell you, when I first got elected, when I came into office in Washington, day one, I was the only person on my D.C. staff that had no Washington experience. Yeah. Everyone else had the opportunity to serve either under Congressman Harper, some had served under Senator Cochran. I've got my deputy chief of staff, Gerard. She's an amazing lady. She has worked for me now for 2+ years. She spent 10 years with Greg Harper. Yeah. 12 years with Chip Pickering and 6 years with G.V. Sonny Montgomery. So you talk about someone with institutional knowledge from Louisville, Mississippi. She moved to Washington, D.C. Sonny saw her when that was part of the 3rd District, convinced her to go to Washington, and she's been there ever since. And so I'm blessed to have a great staff and that we're able to help resolve issues for people, whether that be an issue with the VA, an issue with the stimulus check, an issue we talked about today with avionics. Certain things where the federal government plays a role, we're able to get involved and try to move those things forward and try to help people in Mississippi to be able to have some sort of closure to issues that they're facing.
And we appreciate that. And anyhow, so job well done. Thank you for that. And thanks for, I know you got a great staff, and you were blessed to have folks with a lot more experience underneath that dome than you did when you got there. That's and right. So you're smart to surround yourself with people like that.
That's right. You know, when I got elected, I knew the criminal justice system. I knew my way around the courtroom. I knew how to prosecute a criminal case, but had really, other than occasionally going to the state capitol to lobby on behalf of bills that related to the criminal justice system, had spent no time on the legislative side. So sure. I had a learning curve, blessed to have a good staff who was able to help me through that process. And I think that we were able to be effective as a freshman member of Congress because of the people that were on staff. We were able to actually get 2 bills through Congress. So when you're in the minority and you're able to get 2 bills through last Congress, we were excited about that, and we hope to continue to build on that momentum.
Well, we expected, shall we turn our attention here to what's going on there on the national scene from a political perspective. We expected and were told that when Joe Biden would be elected and that we needed to elect him to restore unity in this country. It doesn't seem like he's been anything remotely close to a unifying figure from the White House. In fact, he's been more divisive, arguably, than any other president in our history.
You know, I think he's failed to live up to those campaign promises. Throughout the campaign, you heard him on the campaign trail talking about that we need a president who was uniting the country, not dividing the country, and how he wanted to work with Republicans. He wanted to see bipartisan legislation come across his desk so that he could sign that. I will tell you, in his first 100 days, we have seen none of that. We have seen the Democratic Party with a very narrow majority, a 50-50 Senate, an evenly split United States Senate, and now because of some changes in the House, there is only a 2-seat Democratic majority because certain members have passed away and we're going to have special elections. So a 50-50 Senate, a 2-seat majority in the House, and they're talking about passing legislation without Republicans being able to offer amendments, without Republicans really even being in the process at all. And so we have seen a very divisive government, no bipartisanship whatsoever, and it just seems to me that what President Biden, at that time, candidate Biden, was saying on the campaign trail was nothing more than just rhetoric.
You were sharing with me this morning that next week you will have the honor and privilege of voting on admitting D.C. as a state. So how could that be something? It's clear that that is not supported by the right and by the Republican Party, yet they insist on, Nancy Pelosi insists on ramming that through the House.
Well, and you're exactly right. And I think our founding fathers were clear when they established the District of Columbia as the seat of the federal government that they did not want that to be part of any state. And so what we see now is that the Democratic Party, in an effort to get 2 more seats in the United States Senate, is seeking D.C. statehood. This bill was brought up last Congress. It passed out of the House. It never came up to for a vote on the floor of the Senate. But they're seeking once again to add Washington, D.C. because they know if they do that gives them an additional 2 more Democratic United States senators and makes it that much harder for Republicans to have a voice in our Senate. And
so you've also got some stuff going on with respect to foreign policy as well that is disturbing. So President Trump understood right off the bat who the bad actors were on the planet, and he positioned the United States to be at the level of power and dominance on the world stage that it should be. Because sometimes I think we're the only rational people in a sea of irrational actors, and certainly in certain parts of the globe. But let's talk about Iran, for example. So now it looks like they're trying to re-enter the nuclear deal with Iran, is the Biden administration, after President Trump clearly understood this is a bad deal. This is all in favor of Iran, and there's nothing good about this for the United States.
You're exactly right. And President Trump had some great foreign policy wins when he was in office. One of the things that he did is he pulled out of the nuclear treaty with Iran that not only the United States but many of our European allies were in, because ultimately what that treaty allowed is it allowed Iran to ultimately develop a nuclear weapon. We were just trying to control the pace at which they developed that. And so a nuclear equipped Iran is, to me, very dangerous, particularly in the Middle East. And as we see the Middle East continue to be a very volatile part of our world, a nuclear Iran, I think, poses threat to our ally in Israel, depending upon what type of weapon system they're able to put that on. Europe and possibly the United States could be a threat to and be held hostage by Iran if they're able to develop nuclear capabilities. The other thing the president did well is he really held China to task and was able to implement new trade agreements with China that put America on more of an equal footing. And I think that's all we can ask for. We don't ask that Americans be given any preference. We just ask that there be a level playing field, and that was one of the things that President Trump was able to do during his administration.
Sometimes I feel like President Biden and the Democrats view Trump supporters a bigger threat to our nation than they do some of these foreign foes who seek to dominate us and in some cases to wipe us off the face of the planet. They're a smaller threat or a smaller concern than domestic terrorists, which are deemed that simply because they supported Trump and did support Biden.
You're exactly right. Used to Americans could always come together, rally around each other for our position on foreign policy. Now we're seeing even our foreign policy being challenged by that divisiveness.
Crazy. We got a break.